interesting and also valuable tips and tricks that will be shared by our great friends and our registrar, CEC Corporate Domains Regional Director, Patrick Hauss, who will talk about effective domain name strategies to protect vital assets and tackle cybercrime. So please give a warm welcome to a man who has birthday today. So here, the floors are yours.
Yeah, I'm getting 1 year older today. Good afternoon, everyone. I know we have people watching as well from many other regions online, so good morning for the ones who are listening to us, and maybe good evening as well for some others. I'm Patrick Hauss from CSC. Super happy to be here in beautiful Latvia, I think the country where everyone is called Yanis. So if you have any problem, you're not from Latvia and you need anything in the street, just ask Yanis. There's always going to be a Yanis around, I guess. I want to start with 2 words. The first is thank you. Usually we end with thank you, but I just wanted to start with a thank you. And this thank you is especially to Dana and Katrina for organizing the Baltic Domain Days. We are super proud to be here today, again in this beautiful country. Fantastic event, CyberChess. CSC is super proud to be a sponsor of this, this event. So thank you very much for giving the opportunity to speak today here. And congratulations was the second word actually for people organizing this beautiful event in Riga. For sure we're going to be here next year again to partner with you guys. So I'm Patrick Hauss. Quite a tricky situation because I have an Irish first name. I have a German family name. I'm French, actually. I work for a US company. But most importantly, every night I dream about domains, and for a very, very long time. And we're going to be speaking about domains this afternoon, of course. So why do I dream about domains? Actually, I'm originally an IP lawyer, so nothing really connected to cybersecurity whatsoever. And I used to work for many big brands on the French market as a legal counsel. So I used to work in the bank and finance industry. I used to work in the telecom industry as well. But I also had a chance to work for domain registries like AFNIC, who is running the .fr, and also the .Paris, which has been launched as part of the first round of the new CERT.LV program. I've been working for registrars as well, Indom, which was a very French startup-ish corporate registrar, NetNames, who then got acquired by NetNames, and then I joined NetNames, I joined CSC to run corporate development. So I've been in the industry for 24 years, with CSC for almost 10 years, and I've been very involved in the domain and probably most importantly the intellectual property community within associations like INTA. I'm part of the Internet Committee, or MARCS. I'm part of the Cyberspace Committee, where we're discussing about all the different, I would say, infringement, brand abuse, or DNS abuse related topics, which are hot topics, of course, right now. I just wanted to say a couple of words about CSC. For those who don't know CSC, CSC is the most security-conscious registrar on this planet. We are managing nearly 3 million domains for corporate mainly, and we are also providing online brand protection services and anti-fraud services as well. So what am I going to speak about today? Today I want to speak with you and explain you a little bit what big corporates, when they are trying to protect their brands, are basically putting in place when it comes to securing their online presence. And you're going to see that there's quite a lot of things that brand owners need to do in order to be protected. So really putting, myself and yourself basically of the shoes of a, organization needing to manage domain in a secure manner. There was obviously a lot of changes within the, I would say, cyberspace. It's really time for companies and organizations to get organized in order to mitigate risks. So domain security is the topic here, and I wanted to dig a little bit into what domain security is. So is it basically registering domains, as in, is it basically securing domains, as in, registering domains, or my domains, are they secure, meaning, do I need to apply some security features to my domains in order to get them as secure as possible and to avoid attacks? And obviously, as it was mentioned during previous presentation this morning or yesterday, I'm thinking about the presentation of David from ICANN, there was quite a significant change in the digital landscape with an acceleration of threats with COVID, and now even further and even more with generative AI, with obviously increasing the risk lately. So having said that, I just wanted to highlight the fact that when we speak about domain security, we always need to see the two angles of what domain security basically is. So the first angle is obviously to make sure that all your domains are under control, they are registered, and you apply all the different security features which are available on the market in order to get them, protected and up and running 100% of the time. The second angle that you need to take into consideration is how bad actors basically are using the domain ecosystem in order to perform attacks. For example, when registering, deterring domains using a brand for example, what we usually call cybersquatting. So that's really the two angles you need to take into consideration. It's not only about having a portfolio and registering and renewing domains, it's also about the use of what third parties, bad actors are doing with your brands when it comes to domain registrations. Today, I mean, we have a lot of threats out there. Domain security is a solution to mitigate these threats. I've listed a few. We know cybersquatting, we know typo squatting, we know domain shadowing, we know dangling DNS, we know phishing attacks, and so on, or DNS DDoS attacks as well. So many threats out there, and it's really important, to mitigate all these risks. So I wanted to speak a little bit as well about who has been managing domains within a big corporation or big organization. And there was some change as well. I started in the industry, in 1999, so in the last century, my God. And I remember that back in the 20th century, it was mainly IT people who were managing domains because they needed to configure an email address in order to send emails, basically. But things have changed. Internet has grown, the landscape has changed, and then we've seen the first cyber squatting cases, the rise of UDRPs and all the different DRPs that we have in the world. And we've seen basically an increase of legal people basically starting to handle domain names exactly like they're handling and managing trademarks within their organization. That was quite of a move as well, and we started to see the first dispute and decision in front of the WIPO in Geneva in 1999, and thousands of them since then, of course. And then we had the rise of e-commerce, and we started to have people thinking about digital transformation, digital transition, imagining new process in order to go digital, and the start really of the e-commerce, and that's when we started to see people from digital or marketing managing domains. And now the situation is again changing because we are seeing all the threats out there in the wild web, as we tend to call it. And now we have security people starting to think about domains and really approaching these two angles I was speaking about in order to secure the domains and to offer domain security, basically. So why do we have all these threats out there? I mean, the concept of security by design obviously didn't exist back in, I think it was 1985, in January, when the very first domain, which was a .net actually, not a .com, but a .net domain was registered. Security by design obviously didn't exist, and that was, 40 years ago nearly. And also domains were not that important for businesses, and we've seen a lot of conversation and presentation during these 2 days where we were speaking about domains and how they are now integrated into what we call national critical infrastructure. So domains are key for security, domains are key for everyone, domains are key for the business, domains are real foundation of the internet, and we need to remember that. And put them really ahead of many like C-level conversation when it's come to discussing about the big challenges of companies. I decided to take 2 examples to illustrate really how things are, evolving when it comes to domain threats, and maybe speak about 2 weaknesses. Not sure if I need to call that weaknesses. It's more the way internet has been designed, which is creating problems. So the first thing that I wanted to speak about with you is what we call the first come, first serve rule, which is a standard rule within the domain ecosystem. And here I have an article from the BBC News, which is actually about a French company called Valsts. It's a very well-established construction company, 300,000 employees across the globe, in 130 jurisdictions. And what happened to these guys, they suddenly saw their stock, their share basically at the Paris Stock Exchange dropped 20% in 1 day. So everything was wondering what was happening. And basically, a cyber squatter decided to register Valsts.group when the actual domain of Valsts is Valsts.com. And the guy basically decided to send to Bloomberg agency a communication about Valsts doing some profit warning. So immediately, information was received by Bloomberg. They thought the information was authentic. It was not. It was sent by a domain in .group. And the stock, the share basically of Valsts at the Paris Stock Exchange dropped by 20%. Then it went a bit higher at the end of the day, but basically that was a tsunami for them. So that's something which is one element which is very important that we need to remember, and which brand owners have, permanently on their mind when they do all these, what we call proactive or defensive registration to add more domains within their portfolio. The second weakness of the system is that basically your online presence is not behind your firewall. You have to deal with your online presence with many different stakeholders within the internet and domain ecosystems, and they are all out there in the wild, and you cannot protect them behind your firewall. So when I speak about that, I speak about, cloud providers, I speak about the registries, I speak about the registrars, I speak about all the elements that you need basically to be present online 100% of your time. So this is something we need to remember because sometimes traditionally when we speak about cybersecurity, we can speak, about what is behind the firewall, but there's not that, always. We need to see as well what's outside and what are the external threats on your domain portfolio. So this is something we need to be aware of. So let's get now into what type of tactics the organization, the brand owners are putting in place in order to be fully secure online. So don't read everything. I'm just going to go through very quickly to give you some example. But basically, there are always 2 questions that brand owners need to ask themselves in order to build up their strategy. The first question, which is very easy to answer when you get an information about one specific domain, is basically, do I own this domain? Very easy. You check your registrar account. You're going to see within the list whether this is a domain that you own or not. The second question is this a domain which is strategic for you? A domain which is strategic for you is a domain that you need in order to be present online on a specific market. A Latvian company is going to need .lv domains in order to promote their products online. Same for a Latvian citizen who wants to create a blog and so on is going to register .lv domains. And basically a domain which is strategic for you and which you own, this is what is business critical for you. All these domains need consolidation. Sometimes you're going to need some extra registration if there are some gaps in your protection. But as part of these domains are going to be considered as vital, because that's the ones where you're going to have your emails, your websites, your VPNs, voice over IP, and many different online services. And if you have an outage with one of these services, your entire business is going to stop. So on these domains, you're going to have to apply all the different security features that are offered on the market by registrar, by registries, by DNS providers, and so on and so forth. I can list a few registry locks, very popular within the domain business for vital domains, DNSSEC, HTTPS, DMARC, and so on and so forth. Two-factor authentication. There are still too many registrars not offering two-factor authentication. This should be mandatory within all the different portals. IP validation is also something which is very important. Training your staff on security measures and best practices and so on and so forth. The second group of domains, again, in order to build your strategy, some domains are going to be strategic for you, specific territories where you need to be, where you need the CCTLDs or the GTLD, but you don't own these domains. These are all what we call infringement, and these are requiring enforcement, legal actions in order to be able to recover the domain which is owned by a third party. And of course, Group B has to be as small as possible, and Group A has to be as big as possible. The pivot of all this strategy is basically one thing that you all know, is that you cannot register every single domain. Okay, so you need to have other tools in place in order to be efficient when you build a strategy. So of course you know that there are domains which are not strategic for you, domains that you don't need or that you don't need anymore. If Baltic Domain Day started 10 years ago, maybe, kind of, you probably had a domain like Baltic Domain Days 2013.LV. That's probably a domain you don't need anymore. Okay, right? So in this case, if this is a domain that you own, Group C, that's a domain basically that you may want to lapse because your organization will probably not want to spend money for such a domain. So releasing domains is sometimes interesting, but also for this type of domains, you may considering divesting these domains. There is an aftermarket for domains which is quite active. So sometimes you have some golden nuggets, within your portfolio, and it's important to look at them, evaluate, appraise them in order to see whether you have an opportunity to get some money back within your domain and security or domain security budget. Group D is probably the most relevant or interesting for cybersecurity people, because this is all about the domains which are not important for you, which are not owned by you, but which may contain your brand or be similar to your brand. And these domains, they need to be detected. You need to know what's going on with these domains. You need to put in place what we call domain threat intelligence. So basically, domain monitoring services which are going to allow you to be informed 24/7 every time a domain reproducing your brand is registered by a third party. So this is very important because that's going to be creating this good balance between having a solid and protected portfolio and at the same time keeping, being aware about the threats that third parties are potentially starting against your brand. Quick example of type of report or alert that companies are putting in place in order to be informed about new registered domains or re-registered domains, but also deleted domains. So that's really important to bear in mind. But also, I think one thing that I want to highlight as well is the fact that it's not only important to know which domains are registered by these third parties, it's also very important to know what these people are doing with these domains. So it's important to keep track record of all these domains, but then it's also very strategic or critical to monitor the activity of these domains. Are these domains starting to send emails, or is there an active website? Is it domain parking, or is it an actual fake domain or copycat website selling counterfeit products? So all this type of information is to be consolidated into some actual monitoring tool, which are available on the market. This is just an example of what CSC is doing with what we call 3D monitoring services. And yeah, and that was it pretty much for me. Just going back to this slide, 4 pillars to put in place within your strategy. Remembering that when security people, marketing people, people from digital or people from IT are managing domains, they're basically getting a flow of information on a regular basis. Emails from their registrar, scamming email, information about the domain registered by a third party. And for each of these information that people managing domains are getting, there's always a solution, and the solution is always going to be in one of these 4 pillars. Thank you very much for your attention. Again, thank you very much, everyone, and Baltic Domain Days and CyberChess. It was really good to be with you today.